Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK013. And yes, we are bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Monday, March 6, 2017. I'm currently recording this podcast on Sunday, March 5th, 2017. We're going to try to make it a trend. Whenever we have a guest, if you notice, we've been recording the episodes the night before the slate and releasing it the night before. I'm going to try to do that with the solo pods too, just to give people more time to listen to the podcast for those of you who are too busy the next day, during the day before lock to watch a full podcast, or listen to a podcast, I should say. Podcasts are for listening. So we're going to try that and keep that a trend going forward. We're starting off with tonight. If the lighting looks a little bit weird to you, it's okay. It's not your computer. It is me. My wife recently bought me some professional lighting. However, it came with 2 lights. I only set up 1 because I wanted to test it out. I still got to figure out where I'm going to put everything. So if you look at one side of my face is shadowed, that's why. Anyway, we have an awesome 12-game slate, awesome meaning big, not necessarily fun, depending on how you look at it. If you're like Fuego Steve, our guest from the other day, you like those short slates, you're going to be breaking this one down. This one's a little too big. But if you like big, if you like options, if you like choices, if you like, these larger slates, then I guess a 12-game slate should do the trick for you. Anyway, I'm going to try to stick to DFS for the most part in this pod. 12 games, we've got a lot to get to, so I'm going to dive right in. Starting with the injuries, Iman Shumpert is questionable with dental problems against Miami. Vooch is questionable with an Achilles against New York. Beasley is questionable with the knee at Philly. Henderson is questionable with his hip versus Milwaukee. Okafor is questionable with the knee versus Milwaukee. Kevin Durant is out, obviously, with his knee at Atlanta. Rajon Rondo is questionable with an ankle at Detroit. Dwayne Wade is questionable with a thigh at Detroit. Crabbe is questionable with the leg at Minnesota. Turner, we know, is out with a hand at Minnesota. Joe Harris is questionable with a concussion at Memphis. Lavoy Allen is out with a knee at Charlotte. Frank Kaminsky is questionable with a shoulder versus Indiana. Kenneth Faried is questionable with a back against Sacramento. Joe Johnson is questionable with a groin against New Orleans Pelicans. Avery Bradley is questionable with a hamstring at the Clippers, and Horford is questionable with an elbow at the Clippers. Neither of those guys played today. However, their team did. So, we got a decent amount of injuries, but when you consider the fact that there's a 12-game slate, that isn't all that much. And I know, at this point in the season, if you got to consider everything. At this point in the season, it's really not that bad. So I wouldn't be surprised if we heard some late-minute news like we always do. It's obviously, like I said, it's 10:43 p.m. on the East Coast, Sunday night. I'm recording this for Monday's slate, so anything could happen. Be aware. Make sure that you're paying attention at any point from tomorrow morning until lock. Pay attention. News will win you money. Not getting the news will lose you money. It will lose you a lot of money. So it's very, very important you pay attention. So a couple guys I wanted to mention. So we're going to start off with point guards, going position by position. Obviously, we know James Harden at 11.5, certainly in play against San Antonio. He finally put up that 60-burger we kind of been waiting for. His price is still cheap, but his matchup is tough. San Antonio's defense hasn't been the best lately. Oh, well, they've been good, but they haven't been as good, I don't think, as we've been accustomed to. But they're still San Antonio. They're still going to try to shut down Harden, and he's a GPP-only play, in my opinion. Steph Curry at 10-4. We know he gets the usage bump, but keep in mind this is the back end of a back-to-back for Golden State, and I'm pretty sure it's a 3-4, if not 4-5. I'm not positive, but they've been playing a lot. They've been on the road for a while, so just keep that in mind. With that said, I love targeting point guards against Atlanta. Point guards and shooting guards, to be honest, which would make Curry and Klay both good plays. Curry is the guy that's supposed to be, he's the guy without Durant, so he's been playing okay, but I don't think he's necessarily been paying off his salary to where we kind of want him to be. So at 10-4, he's expensive, but he's certainly in play for sure. Giannis at 10K, I prefer to play him at small forward because there are so many point guards, and I think that's the advantage of playing a guy like Giannis. You can play him at shoot guard or forward. But at 10K, I think it's a very fair price. He typically does well against Philly, and there's no rim protector like Embiid there this time. So I definitely like the Greek Freak at 10K. Love Chris Paul against Isaiah Thomas at 9K. My only concern is I'm worried the Clippers might blow them out. The Clippers are still the Clippers. They're still very good. They haven't been clicking all that well lately, but they're still very good. Boston has been on the West Coast for a while now, long road trip, and they just played today actually, Sunday. So it's at the back end of a back-to-back to them. So I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen the line. I'm not sure what Vegas thinks, but I'm a little bit concerned about that. Other than that, if you don't think it's going to be a blowout or if the line says otherwise, I do love CP3 today at 9K. Kyrie at 8-9. Kyrie certainly in play too against Miami. Draws a tougher matchup against Dragic, but I don't think Dragic's defense has been all that great recently. So I do like Kyrie, but if I had to choose one, I think I'd much prefer to play Chris Paul at 9K than play Kyrie at 8-9. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. IT2, even though the usage bump is there, I was on IT2 today. He did phenomenal, got 50 DraftKings points. We know he's capable of that, but he does have a matchup against Chris Paul, who happens to be one of the best point guard defenders in the league. So I'm not dying to play him. Bradley was out for a hamstring. If Bradley plays, I'm definitely not playing him. If Bradley is out, I might consider him just because I think he will be low owned because of his matchup with CP3. Damian Lillard at 8-8. I was not paying 9-6 for him against Brooklyn, but I will pay 8-8 against Minnesota. I think 9-6 for Lillard was just ridiculous in that matchup anyway, but I know everybody saw Hill go nuts the night before against Brooklyn. They just assumed Lillard would too, and he really didn't. But at 8-8 against Minnesota, I think he's certainly in play. That brings me to the next guy, Kemba Walker at 8-2. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm fading Kemba 100%. Charlotte's coming home from a 6-game road trip. That's 6 games. And we all know the stigma with Kemba Walker. Play him at home, fade him on the road. Well, if you've been fading him on the road on this road trip, you've been missing out because on this road trip, other than one game against Sacramento, he's been mashing. Over 45 DraftKings points. Okay, over 40 DraftKings points. And all but one, which was against Sacramento. His first game back after the All-Star break, which was against Detroit, he was 7-7 on DraftKings, 57.25 DraftKings points. He's coming off a game against Denver where he got 46 DraftKings points. I'm concerned because I say this every time this happens. When teams go on long road trips, especially across the country, that's a big deal. This is a team that plays in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they just played, I think, 6 straight games on the west coast of the country. Not just the west coast, but the west side. Mostly on the west coast, but the west side of the United States. That's across the country. So, they're humans. They come home. They got families to answer to. They got obligations, community things, agent telling them sign this, sign that, endorsement deals. So when they come home, how many times do we see the first home game after a long road trip where a team comes out flat? And Kemba Walker's price went down, even though his matchup is still pretty good. Indiana's on the back end of a back-to-back, and they have Jeff Teague as their point guard. Not exactly a threat defensively. So why did Kemba's price go down? In my opinion, I'm not saying DraftKings did it to trap you, but I think it's a trap. I think the algorithm just kind of plugged it in, and that's the price you got. But I think everybody's going to want to play Kemba. He's 8-2. He's so much cheaper than Chris Paul. He's so much cheaper than Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving. And he's been crushing, putting up similar numbers. So I think people are going to love to play Kemba at 8-2. I think that might be bad chalk. So I think I'm going to fade him. If you want to play him in cash because you think he's safe, I get it. He is home. Everybody's been waiting for Kemba to come home. People have not been playing Kemba on the road. They've been waiting for him to come home. At 8-2, I think this is a great time to fade him. So there's a lot of guys in good spots. That was kind of my point. Dragic at 7-1's in a great spot. Ricky Rubio I like at 6-7. Now, it's the same situation with Minnesota. They had 4 straight road games. I'm not as concerned with 4. Also, they weren't necessarily traveling across the country. So at 6-7, Rubio has been phenomenal. I do like him. I don't typically like playing guys coming off of monster games. He's coming off a 50-burger against San Antonio. But a matchup against Lillard, you have to consider him at 6-7. In cash games, I really love Derrick Rose still. He's 6'3". It's not that I think he's great. He's on the back end of a back-to-back. He's got tired old knees. But ever since the Knicks got rid of Jennings, Rose has been playing ridiculous amounts of minutes. His minutes have not been in question anymore. So unless we find out he's going to get limited minutes or he's resting, for cash games at 6'3", to hit 5X, you need a little over 30 DraftKings points. I think that's doable for a guy like Rose when he's getting 33 to 38 minutes a game. So just because of the minutes, I think I will take Rose. I do like him in cash. I'm just going to leave it at that. Elf is certainly in play. Darren Collison's interesting. He's 5'7". His price is coming down. Good matchup against Denver. His minutes, he's been playing around 30 minutes. To be honest, the guy I really like is Ty Lawson from this team. Not to jump, there's a couple guys that I'm going to skip over this, but Ty Lawson is 4'6", and if you look at his game logs, if you're a game log watcher, he's been playing the minutes. His last 2 games, 35 minutes against Minnesota, 32 against Brooklyn. 28 DraftKings points, 30 DraftKings points. His price is only 4'6". I think he's certainly in play against Denver, a team that struggles against guards. But anyway, moving back up, Tyler Johnson certainly in play. Tyreek Evans was out. I think he should be back for Denver. He's a phenomenal play at 5'5". obviously more of a GPP guy, even though his upside is limited. His upside is there. It's just a matter of how many minutes he's going to play. Brogdon at 5.5 is okay, I think. Lou Williams at 5.2. I think for GPPs, Lou Williams makes a lot of sense at 5.2. I prefer to play him in at the shooting guard position, just because shooting guard is much more weak. And at 5.2, his price dropped from 64 because in his last 2 contests, he hasn't been doing much. He's been shooting pretty bad, and he's only been getting about 21 minutes. But a guy like him, if he gets hot, the place you want to attack San Antonio is typically from the wing. You want a guy that could shoot, a guard that could shoot threes. San Antonio will still allow you to put that up because they want you to take a low percentage shot. So for a guy like Eric Gordon, who's only 4.3, and Lou Williams, who's only 5.2, I think for GPPs, they're certainly in play because we know what their upside could bring them. Another guy I think worth fading is Ish Smith. He's 4.8, and I get it. And listen, before I say that, if we find out he's going to start, there's been rumors that he might take Reggie Jackson's starting job. If we find out Ish is going to start, I'll 100% play Ish. I'll lock him in, no problem. But if we don't know whether Ish is if Ish is not going to start, I think it's a perfect opportunity to fade him. I really do. He got 39 DraftKings points in 23 minutes. I don't think he's going to do something like that again. It's certainly not a lock for him to do that. But if he starts, I like his chances of at least paying off his salary, which is only 4.8. So if he's not starting, I think I might jump off and fade him a little bit because I think people will chase him. I really do. I think people will chase Ish Smith. They enjoyed playing him. I enjoyed playing him when I played him against Philly. I enjoyed it. But I'm going to hop off that train and in GPP. So I would recommend you do the same. But you do whatever you want. Anyway, for shooting guards, we talked about Harden. Jimmy Butler at 8.6. His price is super attractive at 8.6. He may be mega chalk. And especially with Wade questionable, we don't know if Wade's going to play. If Wade is out, Butler's going to become chalk. But I think you might have to play him, at least in cash. 8.6 is super cheap for Jimmy Butler. I know he hasn't been playing all that well. He's still Jimmy Butler. We know he's capable of a 60 burger. And at 8.6, that'd be a bargain. So I love Butler, even though he could be chalky, even though he could be bad chalk. I still like Butler a lot at 8.6. His price is just too attractive. CJ McCollum certainly in play at 7.6. Klay Thompson at 7.3. I told you I love attacking Atlanta's guards, point guards, and shooting guards. So I think Klay is certainly in play. Just a little concerned about maybe they're tired. So we'll have to wait and see. And they haven't been shooting all that well. I think they shot better against New York, but I'm not positive. I didn't get a chance to catch the game. But yeah, so I think he's interesting. I like Klay at 7.3, I do, even though he hasn't been playing well. Batum at 7.2, I would like him, but like I said, one of these guys have to go off. Somebody from Charlotte's got to keep this game interesting, unless they're going to lose by 50, which I doubt. So I think Batum at 7.2, I'd rather take a chance with him because he's cheaper, even though he hasn't been playing as well. But I'm not dying to play him. If Wade plays, he's interesting. I'm not crazy about him. Now, if Wade plays, I think that'll draw KCP onto Wade a little bit and off of Butler. But if Wade is out, I think KCP might have to cover Butler. Either way, I'm not afraid of that. I'm just letting you guys know. I still like Butler because he's so cheap at 8.6. Keep in mind, though, it is a slow-paced matchup in general. Chicago and Detroit are two of the slower-paced teams in the league. So be careful. I'm not saying to lock him in. I'm just saying that with that price, you have to really take a hard look at him. I don't even have it in my note sheet. He's just somebody that I just felt like mentioning. I think Dion Waiters at 6K is interesting for shooting guard. I do. I think it's 6K. Listen, his minutes have been down, but his shot attempts have still been pretty high, 10 to 11 shots a game. I think if he got hot against Cleveland, which I think is possible, they would keep him in. I think the only reason they've been pulling him is because he's been struggling. If he stops struggling, I think they'll give him some run. So I think he's interesting in GPPs only, but interesting. Evan Fournier at 5.5, man. He's always in these matchups where he should play well. And like against the Knicks, he should crush against the Knicks. And typically in the beginning of the game, he does. For the first quarter or the first half, he'll just run up these points, get like 20 DraftKings points, and then only score like 8 DraftKings points the rest of the game. I don't know why. But on paper, it's a great matchup for him. He's only 5.5, so he's in play. But I just felt like that was worth mentioning. Be careful with him. I don't know. I always play him against New York, and he always starts off red hot, and then he just kind of does okay. So Fournier at 5.5 certainly in play. KCP is 5.8. If you want to go there, I don't think I will. It's a slow-paced matchup. Butler's a guy I like because it's Jimmy Butler. KCP, I guess he's okay, but I don't know. I don't really have too good of a feel on a guy like KCP. I like to play him when they're going to need him against like a top point guard. That's typically when I play him because I know his minutes will be there. And he's a guy that always plays minutes anyway. It's never too much of a worry. Brogdon at 5.5 is okay, I think. Smart, we don't know if Bradley's out. I think Smart's okay, even against a good defensive team like the Clippers. But if Bradley plays, obviously it's going to limit Smart's, it's going to limit their need for Smart. Avery Bradley's interesting at 5'3" if he plays, but now it seems like it's a hamstring, so I don't know. I'd be surprised if he does play. Gary Harris at 5'2" is certainly in play against Sacramento. We know he's a guy that gets a lot of minutes typically. We talked about Lou Williams. Will Barton at 5'1", definitely a GPP play, but at 5'1", a decent GPP play. We know what his upside is. He's a guy that even in limited minutes, he can go nuts once in a while if he gets hot. Hardaway is 5K. He's been playing great. I'm not crazy about him. Iguodala is 5K. I think his price is too. I'd rather play Hardaway than Iguodala at 5K. I'll tell you that. Let's see if there's anybody else that I thought was worth mentioning here. Oh, there is. Oh no, I'm sorry. Eric Gordon at 4'3", he's the guy we mentioned before. He's interesting, I'll say that. And even J.J. Redick at 4'3" is interesting. But, Monte Ellis, Buddy Hield, there's a lot of punt options. Jaylen Brown, if Bradley's out, there's a lot of punt options. Justin Anderson, there we go, 4K. This guy's been getting minutes. Pay attention. He was just minimum salary for a while, and he's been getting minutes. 26 against Miami, 24 against New York, 30 against Detroit. And he put up 31 DraftKings points against New York. I think Philly's trying to see what this kid's got. So pay attention because his shot attempts are up and down, I'll admit that, and he's not exactly a safe play. But at 4K, he does have some decent upside. So he's been getting minutes lately. Pay attention to him. That's all I'm saying. Just pay attention to him. But anyway, guys like Thabo, there's other options you can go for cheap if that's the way you want to go. Moving on to small forward, LeBron 11-2, man. LeBron is LeBron. I'm never going to tell you not to play LeBron. There's a million reasons to play LeBron. He's got some narrative playing against Philly. He sat out in the last. This is a home and home, and then they sat out against Miami. Miami destroyed Cleveland's backups, and wasn't even really funny. I mean, it wasn't even close. And LeBron's going to want some revenge. He's going to want revenge for playing Miami. He's going to want revenge for Miami dusting his teammates. And he's home. He's 11-2. I know he's expensive, but he will mash. And he's got a nice red number 7 next to opponent rank. So I'm wondering if maybe that'll take some people off of him. But I love LeBron even against Miami. Only thing I'm worried about is LeBron may go too hard and destroy them. But I do like LeBron at 11-2. We talked about Giannis. I love Giannis against Philly. Kawhi's in a dream matchup against Houston. Now, dream matchup on paper. Kawhi, in my opinion, is super underrated. And I know people know he's good, but people never play him. I'm talking DFS. He's underrated. People never play the guy. And he's just so good. He really is. He's 9'6". He's super expensive. He's coming off a game where I think he got 67 DraftKings points or something like that. And now he's in a pace-up spot, a super pace-up spot against Houston, one of the fastest-paced teams in the league at home. So at 9.6, I get it. I don't know. It's going to be a tough call. With him and Jimmy Butler, it's going to be tough not to play Butler at 8.6. If you could figure out which one of these guys is going to be higher owned, I would assume Kawhi Leonard just because, people see 15th, an opponent ranking, opposed to 10th for Butler, which is red. Kawhi projects for 0.4 DraftKings points higher, yet he's $1,000 more. So I don't know. That may go the other way. That's a tough decision. Figure out who's going to be. Now, I think if Wade is out, I think Butler will be that guy, and maybe you could pivot to Kawhi. I don't know how much of a pivot it is. He's $1,000 more. But I think both of these guys are great plays. It's going to be, but I think one of them is obviously going to do way better than the other. So it's going to be a tough decision there. But Kawhi is certainly a phenomenal play against Houston. We talked about Butler. Paul George, 7'9". I think Paul George is a phenomenal player. I love the way he plays. I'm a little worried about this. Not the matchup. I'm a little worried because he's coming off a game where he just destroyed. So I don't like playing guys who don't consistently put up these crazy numbers and all of a sudden put one up one day, because I find it that the law of averages balances out and they may not get there again. Carmelo Anthony at 7'8". Well, again, Paul George, I think he's in play. I'm just saying I don't think I'm going to play him. Carmelo Anthony again at Orlando should be a good matchup. There's really nobody that could really stop him here. I would imagine if the Knicks continue to start Porzingis at the 5, I don't know why they're doing that, but if they continue to do that, then I would imagine that Aaron Gordon would guard Carmelo, which Gordon's a decent defender. But if they start Willie Hernangomez, he's going to have to cover. He's going to play the 4. He's going to have to cover Porzingis instead. So if that was the case, that would really free up things for Melo. A guy like Terrence Ross is not covering Melo. So 7-8. Pay attention to the starting lineup for the Knicks. I think he's in play. Keep in mind it's the back end of a back-to-back. But at 7-8, he's in play. One of my favorite plays of the night is Andrew Wiggins at 7-6 against Portland. This guy, his usage has been incredible. He's coming off 2 bad games, but he is home. He had a day off. He's against Portland, a team that does not believe in defense. And there's no Evan Turner, so he's got a matchup with Harkless. I think he can completely destroy Harkless. His shot attempts are going to be there. I love Wiggins. And I love his price at 7-6. The only thing that scares me about Wiggins is Minnesota. This is their first home game after a 4-game road trip. That does scare me a little bit. That's the big reason I'm fading Kemba. But Andrew Wiggins is only 7'6", so I feel like his chances to kill you are a lot smaller than Kemba's. That's why I'll fade Kemba, who played 6 road games consecutively on the other side of the country, but I will play Wiggins, who was on a 4-game road trip, but is that making any sense? I know it's weird. I just really like Wiggins. Maybe I got a little bit of a man crush on Wiggins as far as DFS goes. I know I play him in spots I shouldn't anyway. I've been playing Wiggins so much. I'm surprised he wasn't on my top 3 at the All-Star break, because I do play Wiggins a lot, and especially with LaVine out, I think he killed people twice. He played Utah and Sacramento, man. He had 2 tough matchups. Give him a break. I think he's gonna smash here. 7-6 against Portland at home. I love me some Wiggins for sure. Gordon Hayward's interesting against New Orleans. They typically struggle against small forwards, 7-5. I think Covington's an outstanding play. They're going to need to use Covington. They're going to need him. He's one of their best defenders. And Chris Middleton has been chucking a lot and playing really well. So I think they're going to need Covington to cover Middleton. I'm not too big on Middleton because of Covington, but I love Covington because they're going to need him to cover Middleton. So I like Covington a lot at 7K, even though I think he's coming off a rough game. Yeah, against Detroit. He played 25 minutes, shot 3 for 10. They got destroyed in that game. That's why his minutes were so low. 19 DraftKings points. I love Covington to bounce back, though. We talked about some of these other guys. Tyreek Evans is certainly in play. I think MKG's okay. I'm not dying to play him, but if Kaminsky's out, we know his usage goes up a little bit as far as rebounds and whatnot. Talked about Justin Anderson. Here's a guy I really wanted to talk about. I can't say his name. Nemanja Bjelica, I think his name is Nemanja Bjelica or something like that. He's 3,900 today against Portland. He's at home. This guy has been completely killing things. He's just been, I never even heard of the dude, and then all of a sudden his last 3 games, let's see, 35 minutes against Sacramento, 34.5 DraftKings points. He was the minimum at 3K. And then we saw him at Utah, a tough matchup. He played 32 minutes, got 42.25 DraftKings points. His price was only 3.2K. And then even against San Antonio, he only played 21 minutes against San Antonio. His price was 3.8K, or no, 3.6K. And he got 22.25 DraftKings points. So it seems like lately, for whatever reason, when he's on the court, he's going to play well. I looked at the game flow a little bit, and I noticed that he typically will come in the first quarter for Karl Anthony Towns, but then in the second quarter, he'll play on the court with Karl Anthony Towns. His usage seems to be better. He's more productive when Towns is on the floor, for what it's worth. He's 3,900. His price is creeping up, but I love this guy. I mean, he just came out of nowhere, and he's here to win you money. So I think that at 3,900, he's certainly in play. Pay attention to him. I don't know how to say his name. I'm probably going to name the podcast after him, but that's only because I feel bad that I'm butchering his name. It's like Bjelica. Bjelica. But I watched a bunch of videos, too, just so I would pronounce his name correctly, and I have already forgotten how to pronounce his name. But yeah, Nemanja Bjelica. I don't know. Anyway, Bjelica. He plays for Minnesota. He's 3,900. He does not start, but we have been seeing him get some decent minutes. If he's going to get decent minutes again, I think he's a phenomenal value at 3,900. A great punt play, and he's small forward and power forward eligible to give you some of that flexibility. Moving on to power forward. Let me get over here. There's a couple guys that I think are interesting in the power forward slot today. Obviously, you got Karl Anthony Towns. You don't need me to tell you he's going to crush. He's 10-3. Matchup against Nurkic, who's not known for his defense. I love Towns at 10-3 in a pace-up spot at home. I like Wiggins more, but I do like Towns a lot. Boogie and AD, they're both cheap, but that's because you're getting a Utah discount. It's not going to be easy, but they got 2 big studs. So maybe go the other way with like Favors or Gobert, because you know they're going to need some minutes. It's possible. Anyway, Blake Griffin at 8-7. He's in a phenomenal spot. His price is super cheap, especially against a Boston team that struggles against power forwards. Like I said, I'm a little concerned about how Boston matches up with the Clippers. If you think about it, they struggle against power forwards, and the Clippers have Blake Griffin. They struggle in rebounds. The Clippers have DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, and then they struggle against point guards, and Chris Paul's their point guard. So just on paper, it seems like a kind of a tough matchup for Boston. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned about the blowout, but if you take the blowout factor out of it, which I think I probably will by the time lock comes, I love Griffin. I love CP3. I love them both. So yeah, at 8-7, especially Blake Griffin, 8-7 against Boston. Yeah, it sounds great. Draymond Green is 8-2. He's okay. We talked about Melo. Millsap is 7-4. Not too big on him against Draymond. I love Sarge at 7-4. Love him against Milwaukee. Don't see anybody who could really match up with him. I'm going to keep playing him. I continue to play this dude. I'm going to keep playing this dude, especially in cash games. I think he's got a really high floor. Him and Covington, love both of those guys. They're pretty much carrying Philly. Not that Philly's been playing that great, but they've been carrying the load. And until they hit up to probably like 8, until they're in the 8s, I'm going to continue to just put my head down and play them. Frank Kaminsky is 6.9. He's questionable. If he is out, Marvin Williams, we've seen, is going to get mega minutes. Also, Zeller is worth a look if Kaminsky's out. If Kaminsky's playing, I think he's still okay. However, Zeller is back. So remember, they don't necessarily need him to play those monster minutes anymore. So at 6.9, he's probably too expensive even if he does play. I'll probably wait for his price to drop back down or wait for Zeller to get hurt again because I think that's coming soon just because the guy always gets hurt. I'd much rather play Porzingis at 6'9", put it that way, especially in GPPs. Porzingis has been playing well. He had a good game today. I do like KP against Orlando, especially if Vooch is out. I'm sorry, even if Vooch is in, I should say, just because I don't think Vooch is a very good defender. So, and KP has been playing the 5. So I definitely like Porzingis at 6'9". LMA against Houston looks attractive, but I don't know. There's something about this that smells a little fishy to me. His minutes have been inconsistent lately. I'm not exactly sure why. And he's coming off a game where he put up 40. He played 44 minutes in that overtime game against Minnesota. He played 40 minutes on the 3rd, 44 on the 4th. They just put a lot of miles on this dude. So he's certainly in play. Put a back-to-back 40-plus DraftKings points games. But I don't know. Something about him, I'm just not big on him. And I could be wrong. Certainly play him if you like him. I'm just not big on the guy for whatever reason today. I like him in general, just not in this matchup. Something don't seem right. And if I'm going to play a Spur, it's going to be Kawhi. Put it that way. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys on the board. Even like we talked about Favors at 5'6". He's been playing better. They're going to need him on the court. He's been playing, against Brooklyn to play 34 minutes. They're going to need him. They're going to need Gobert to match up with Davis and Boogie. So you could expect him to play some minutes. Aaron Gordon at 5'5", certainly an intriguing play. I love Rashawn Holmes. I love him in GPPs if Okafor plays. I like him in cash games if Okafor doesn't play. Does that make sense? That's probably I'm going to attack that. One of my favorite plays for GPPs is Mirotic against Detroit. Detroit has struggled all year against stretch fours, and Mirotic, you can't put him in cash because his minutes are too inconsistent, and he's very scoring dependent for the most part, in my opinion. But if his shot is on, they will keep him in there. They'll let him get some run. And he does have upside because of all the threes he takes. So at 4'6", I think he's certainly a fantastic punt option at the in GPPs only. I wouldn't put him in cash, but in GPPs, I think he's certainly in play. We're going to move on to center here. Center is a little interesting today. We talked about Towns, a phenomenal spot. The Joker's probably once again my favorite center. Just raw, my favorite center. Obviously, I'm not talking about lineup construction or balancing out what plays I like. The Joker, it's against Sacramento. Love the Joker at home. He's 10-1, but I think that if you look at his game logs, you'll see this guy puts up 50 DraftKings points in his sleep. So I don't think that even at 10-1, I think that's okay. Now I don't know how much higher. Like once he gets to like 11, I might have to consider fading him if there's a large slate like this and there's other guys. But at 10-1, you gotta love the Joker. I like Towns too, so that's gonna be a tough choice. But I think everybody has grown to like this guy. He continued. People seem to still be afraid to play him for some reason, and then the one time everybody did play him, he dudded. So I like the Joker a lot. I'm not scared. At 10-1, that's fine because I think that he needs 50 points for 5x, and I think that's probably his floor. That's just honestly speaking, that's what I think. Sacramento's on the back end of a back-to-back. You do have to be a little concerned that they're going to get blown out just because, they don't really have anybody good on their team. But I think they won today. But they did go to overtime, so keep that in mind. But I do love the Joker. Marcus Gasol against Brooklyn, great spot, 8.3. Drummond at 8K against Chicago is in a decent spot, but it's a pace down spot. Whiteside at 7.7. I'd be careful there because when LeBron's playing, the team's a much better rim protecting team. So even though his price went down and he played well against Cleveland last time, LeBron and Kyrie weren't playing. More importantly, LeBron wasn't playing. So when LeBron's there, it makes a difference down low. LeBron gets to that hoop and he protects that rim. So I'm not a big fan of Whiteside today. Vooch at 7.3. If Vooch is out, you have to play Biyombo because he's only 3K. He's the minimum, and he's going to get all the minutes. So you have to play him, unfortunately, even though I hate playing him. If Vooch plays, I love Vooch. New York struggles against centers as it is. He's 7.3. His price isn't that bad. And he's rested. The rest of his team is going to play the back end of a back-to-back, and I think at 3 and 4. Meanwhile, he had today, which is Sunday, off. So I think that At 7-3, he's a phenomenal play. I'd love to give you some Vooch. But again, if Vooch is out, Biyombo, you pretty much got to lock him up. DraftKings still has him at the minimum at 3K. Rudy Gobert is only 7K. And like I said, I like him simply because they're going to need him on the court with AD and Boogie. One of those guys is always going to be on the court. That means Favors and Gobert, one of those guys should always be on the court. So I think they're definitely tournament plays. And they're never really too popular anyway, but I do like them there. DeAndre Jordan at 7K. Boston's a terrible rebounding team. This is right up DeAndre Jordan's alley, especially if Horford's out. I think DeAndre Jordan can still have his way with Amir Johnson down low. And even if Horford plays, he doesn't like to be considered a center, so he doesn't seem to like to play that way. So I like DeAndre Jordan at 7K. We talked about Porzingis. Let's see. Dwight Howard's interesting. It's a pace-up spot, but I'm not dying to play the guy at 6'7". Greg Monroe at 6'2 is interesting. I think Miles Turner at 6K is interesting, even though I don't like playing big men on the back end of a back-to-back, except for Boogie. I got to throw that in, except for Boogie. Hernan Gomez is 5'9", phenomenal matchup against Orlando, but he hasn't started even though he was healthy enough to play. They had him coming off the bench. They've been starting Lance Thomas and keeping Porzingis out there, so keep that in mind. He's 5'9", maybe a little bit too expensive for him at this point. I talked about Cody Zeller. If Kaminsky's out, I really like Cody Zeller in GPPs. His price is 5'4". It's not the greatest, so I probably prefer Marvin Williams. Even though Marvin Williams is 5'7", he's, in my opinion, he's a bigger lock for the minutes because Zeller has significant injury problems. We talked about Rashawn Holmes. He's 5'2". If Okafor is out, which he's questionable, I like Holmes in cash games. I like Holmes in GPPs if Okafor does play. Willie Cauley-Stein. I love Willie Cauley-Stein. I'm just worried about the back end of a back-to-back. They went to overtime, and he's got a matchup with Jokic, so not exactly a recipe for success. If Okafor does play, I do like Okafor at 4'8", just because he's so cheap. Kyle O'Quinn, before you laugh at me, he's 4'5", and listen, this is a GPP-only play because Hernan Gomez is now healthy, but the Knicks don't like to play this guy minutes, but when they do, even in 15 minutes against Toronto, he put up 24.5 DraftKings points. In 19 minutes against Orlando, 20.75. In 25 minutes against Philly, 36.25. So listen, my point is, this guy is a guy that the little minutes he gets, he typically produces. Does he have a dud every once in a while? Sure, he had one against Philly. But he's worth considering as a long GPP dart. He's certainly worth considering because there are games where if he's on, even in 15 minutes, he'll pay off his salary. So just throwing it out there for GPPs. I think that's pretty much going to do it for us for the position-by-position breakdown. Phenomenal timing. So we're going to try to keep these podcasts coming the night before the slate just to give you guys some more time to listen, to watch, whichever method that you prefer. Again, if the lighting is off, my wife recently bought me 2 of these awesome professional lightings, but I only set up one because I wanted to test it out first and figure out where to put it. That's why if you look, half my face is shadowed, the other half's not. Anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us here. And subscribe to the channel, of course. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to that channel. Leave us some reviews. I want to hear some feedback. What can I do to make the show better for you guys? And bump us up those rankings. We really appreciate it every time that happens. But yeah, if you're not a member of WiseTake.com, please sign up now. Membership is free. You get access to our free raw projections. And we have a forums on there we're going to try to get going. And over the next couple weeks, I'm going to try to incorporate a chat. And this way we can all kind of talk strategy together for WiseTake members before each slate lock. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate you watching. And as always, good luck.
Yeah.